Broadcasting live from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
And welcome to the show. I think by now we can all agree that there's always more in Claremore, and this episode's no different. We had a chance to talk to the director of Main Street in Claremore, Jacob Garrison, about Claremore's Renaissance and Dickens on the Boulevard coming up on the 22nd and 23rd of this month. I'm Brett.
And I'm Harley. Maybe we should specify which month. Maybe this is maybe you're tuning in the future and you don't know what this month is. So the 22nd and 23rd of November.
Yes.
In the year of our Lord 2019.
The year 2019. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But here's the thing. 20 or 30 years from now, there may not be any transcription.
In 20 or 30 years from now, this show should not still be being listened to. Things will have changed too much. We'll have flying cars in Claremore.
In 20 years, I'll have, with any hope, a kid graduating high school. Stop it. Don't remind me. Man, that's crazy to me.
Well, he is going to be your kid, so 20 years would be accurate.
Yeah, you know, hopefully he'll graduate on time. That's the hope right now. I whisper to the belly every night, just be better. Just strive to be. I'm just so glad you can't see what's going on out here right now. Just be better. So what are you up to?
What am I up to?
Loaded
question, dude.
I know. You're always up to something, though, man. Like, you're honey. Here's the thing about you is you always have a honey-do list. We do a lot of the things that we do based around whether or not you get your chores done or whether or not you've just got a list of things. I mean, I don't know that you're going camping every other weekend completely by choice. Maybe your hand is being forced slightly.
I love camping.
I know you do.
I did have a major camping mishap, though.
This is news.
So we were winterizing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The camper this weekend and decided to blow the air out of the water lines because the temperature was going to drop dramatically.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. So hooked up the air compressor to the truck.
Yeah.
And started blowing out the lines. Didn't really think about it. And after we were done doing everything, go to start the truck to hook up the camper.
Yeah. And
head on home. And that's when we realized that the air compressor was running for way too long while the vehicle was not running.
So you were DOA with a dead battery.
Dead battery.
Oof.
At the Lake Murray.
In frigid temperatures, to say the very least.
No, it wasn't cold.
Oh, no?
No. It was not. It was a nice day.
Okay.
So no big deal on that. We did get it solved fairly quick. The camp host came over, kind of rolled his eyes.
Right.
Like rookies.
Rookie, yeah.
And gave us a jump start, and everything was fine after that.
Man, I always looked up to you when it came to the camping thing, because I had observed as you guys set up once and tore down because I had a bad arm. I couldn't help. You guys got a pretty well-oiled machine, so this has got to hurt you a little bit.
No, I mean, this was totally new to us. So this is our first season out camping, and winterizing the camper was brand new experience to us. And you're juggling a lot of balls when you're out there trying to do multiple things.
So the fuse issue you had with your little plug-in, was that part of that, or was that on a different vehicle?
That was on the other vehicle.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe there might have been some cross-contamination there. Some bleed over.
Negatory.
So what did we learn?
Have somebody winterize your camper for you. It may cost a little bit of money,
man,
but it's easier.
So how long, start to finish, did it take you to winterize the camper?
We didn't completely winterize it. Like I said, we just blew out the water lines and a few additional things. We are planning on going down, taking everything out, and putting everything up, and that sort of thing. So we'll probably spend half a day doing that.
Will that be before or after the Thanksgiving getaway?
That will be probably around the same time.
That is such an unconventional way to spend Thanksgiving, but I can't think of a more perfect scenario for you. This is your bag, man.
As long as the weather is nice, we're
Yeah.
going to go ahead and do Thanksgiving on the campground. I think it'll be fun. I think
sure.
the kids will like it. But if the weather doesn't cooperate, we will not be doing that.
I will have a leftover turkey sandwich. Enjoy. Well, we're off to Claremore, the home of Will Rogers, coming up. Okay, before we go any further, where'd you get that shirt?
You mean this custom designed Only in OK shirt?
Dude, the podcast is 17 seconds old.
The guys over at Master Threads printed them up for us.
Well, apparently not us. I don't have a Only in Oklahoma shirt.
Oh, did you not get yours?
Oh, and apparently a hat as well, embroidered? How is this even possible?
Brett, I'm just going to say that Master Threads is an Oklahoma-based company specializing in professional graphic design and embroidery.
And apparently lightning fast turnaround.
Absolutely. So they had made shirts for us in the past, back in the days when we were only internationally award-winning podcasters. They nailed that order too.
Well, apparently I'll have to call Jeff and the team at Master Threads myself to make it happen. But if you need local products from a local company you can trust, check out Master Threads at masterthreads.us.
That's masterthreads.us.
Master Threads. It's the Dickens on Boulevard in Claremore, Oklahoma, and joining us today is the executive director of Main Street. It's Ebenezer Scrooge. Just kidding, it's Jacob Garrison. Welcome to the show, Jacob.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So, Jacob, I read that you've lived in Kansas City, you lived in St. Louis before making the move to Oklahoma. You grew up in a small town, and kind of by comparison, they're not too much different size-wise, but that's quite a leap. What brought you back to small-town America?
Well, my wife and I, about 2 years ago, we were living in Broken Arrow, about 20 minutes south of here. And I think both of us have just always had that pull to get back to the small town. She had grown up in a smaller town herself outside of Tulsa. Like you had said, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Kansas, small town where not a lot of highway driving. I think the first highway I ever drove on in my life was first day I was heading to college. So I grew up in those small towns where, as cliche as it sounds, you know everybody and everybody knows you, with the good and bads that come along with that. And that's just the type of town that, living 18 years of my life in, I think now as a father myself, and we're wanting to raise our son, we kind of felt that pull. And about 2 years ago, we found it in Claremore. We found our little piece of heaven of our land and little 10 acres outside of town, and we just fell in love with it. So, like I said, we've been here about 2.5 years. Had gotten really engaged with the town, with Claremore Mainstreet, meeting people and joining organizations, and just have fallen in love with the town over and over since we moved here.
So in 2016, Claremore was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in terms of a district for commerce. What has taken so long to get the recognition for Claremore, you think?
I think one thing that Claremore is, I think with that recognition and a lot of progression that we're really trying to make a big mainstay of what we are doing now, is I think a lot of these smaller towns are really being revitalized through kind of a nationwide, but very strongly in Oklahoma, the Route 66 revitalization. I think, and I've heard this various places from conferences and people I've met in small towns, big towns. You hear a lot of people say, kind of our parents' generation, they were kind of hurrying to the suburbs. Everybody was going out of the main street, the outside of town, the suburbs, and kind of the millennial generation. You meet with those people. They're the ones that are scrambling back downtown. As we've seen, downtown Tulsa down the road has done miles and miles of things just since I moved to Oklahoma. And I think as those bigger towns both saw the economic development and impact that those downtowns could be, mixed with the younger kids that don't quite want to drive 20 minutes to get to a job. They don't need a big yard and all those things that maybe a generation ago everybody was craving for. They're looking more for an experience. And I think that experience is a lot easier to be attained when you're closer to everything. So I think we've seen it kind of going from the big town model down to a small. We've seen those larger towns, downtown areas developed, upstairs living, shops, kind of the experience that people are wanting. And I think in turn, these downtowns and smaller towns have said, hey, we've got these beautiful 80, 90, 100-year-old buildings, these historic main streets, and that development has trickled down.
So, Jacob, you're kind of a younger guy. I'm sure you probably got some pretty good influence with the younger members of the community. I imagine you might be seeing a little bit of resistance to some of the elders in the community. What's the response been like for you?
You know, I will tell you, it's probably the most refreshing thing since I took this position. And I've told many people this, that being new to Claremore, you know, I'd been here 2 years. And so I'd gotten to know people. And I think, in my hometown included, there's kind of a stigma. The younger kids are in the Tulsas, the older generations kind of stay on our outside towns. But I have been amazed with how many people right around my age that are heavily involved in Claremore, both with their bringing businesses. Main Street building owners have brought businesses back to Claremore. Some people that grew up here, some people that have never lived here. That Claremore, more than any town that I know of this size, has more, as I kind of say, movers and shakers in their early 30s to early 40s that are really craving that small town. I honestly thought it might have been more of a challenge before I came, not knowing, you know, how do we get the kind of a younger professionals involved. And I came here, there's an organization, the Claremore Collective, that my wife and I had joined, and probably 30 to 40-year-old young professionals, young kids, business owners, building owners, that I was very pleasantly surprised that there was a larger number of people in Claremore that are similar to me, that are wanting to both preserve and maintain the great historic feel we have. You know, we're not trying to be anything we're not. We're not trying to be a Tulsa. We're not trying to be bigger than what we are. We are, what I think we're great at is that great size town. We're right outside of Tulsa, but you can also live here, be in the country, be in town, live downtown, have all that feel, and you're close to a big town, but you still have that small town feel. And as I said earlier, those younger people are drawn to those downtowns and the bigger towns. They're also being drawn to these communities as well, that a lot of people that could have their business in Tulsa have brought it here because they see the pull of it, and they see the benefit of both having the small town, but also the accessibility to a larger one.
So I'm looking at the calendar of events. I don't know how you sleep. It seems like every weekend there's something going on in Claremore, and even during the week, you've got like Food Truck Thursdays. What kind of a response has that been?
You know, that the Food Truck Thursday has been a staple that people have really enjoyed. I'll be honest, we had our final one on Halloween night 2 weeks ago, and of all the planning that went into the event, my biggest stress leading up to it was, am I going to have to be the guy that cancels it? Because the weather was just, forecast was looking awful. And lo and behold, we had more people. Our food trucks had their best night. We had the largest event we've ever had downtown. The weather held off just enough. We actually teamed up with a few churches that in normal food truck, we'd close about 3 blocks. We closed 6 blocks up.
Oh, wow.
And had 6 blocks of trick-or-treating, food. I even talked to a few of the police officers on patrol, and they were thanking us. They said the town was pretty easy to maintain trouble because everybody was downtown. I feel like everybody and their dog was downtown that night. It's a great event. It's just those types of opportunities that we can, any events, and as the director, I'm always trying to think, what can we, kind of like our buildings in a nutshell, you know, we want to maintain the events and the buildings and things we have, but you also don't want anything to be stale. You're trying to push the envelope, come up with new ideas, new events, and, you know, which is ironic because talking about new and creative ideas, we're getting ready to do our 24th Dickens event. So obviously those ones that people have grown accustomed to coming and being a part of, and as a new director, hoping I don't drop the ball and let an event that's been around 24 years, though, you know, do anything but just continue to grow and have a good success.
Well, Jacob, we've been super impressed with everything we see going on in Claremore. You guys are really kind of stepping up your game. We've looked at a lot of activities that you've had going on. We've covered a few, but we're just super impressed overall with everything that's going on in downtown Claremore. Now, you said you're on the 24th year of Dickens on the Boulevard. That is a really long time to do something in Claremore that's not named after Will Rogers. What's the secret sauce here?
You know, I think for everybody that with the weather and you see the Christmas lights popping up, I think everybody's kind of stirring that Christmas feel. You hear the Christmas music, and I think at least for the Rogers County people, it feels like kind of the first kickoff. It's always the weekend before Thanksgiving. So we're still kind of treading on the turkey's toes the week before that, and that big event coming up. But to me, it's always kind of been the kickoff. I had gone to 2 Dickens before being director, and you kind of feel Christmas in the air, but that felt like the really first time. Hey, it feels like Christmas season. And what I think's great about Claremore is that, as I said earlier, we like to be what we are, and we are very historic, beautiful with our history and Will Rogers and Lynn Riggs and Patty Page and so much history here. I think it's really great that our big Christmas event ties to that old school Victorian era. And it just kind of has that ambiance of your downtown Claremore. You see the big bike riders and the Victorian outfits and the window sitters. And I think it's just that big kickoff that people look for it every year, saying, okay, Dickens is here, so Christmas is here, and it's time.
Well, we've never been to Dickens on the Boulevard, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners haven't either. Can you kind of paint us a picture of what we're going to see when we come down?
Yeah. So it's always the Friday and Saturday before Thanksgiving every year. And it's a 2-night event where we will have the whole Will Rogers Boulevard for the 3 blocks closed down, actually 4 blocks. And we will have things such as our Tales from the Top tour, which for history nuts like me is really exciting. Last year, my wife and I took our son on it, where we pick 5 buildings on downtown Claremore and we take tours of the top. And we have Krista Rice, who runs Explore Claremore History, writes these elaborate, beautiful scripts that kind of tie in the history of what was up there. One of the buildings upstairs used to be the old doctor's office, and on, that it kind of tells the story of what was there. So for many people, they kind of get a twofold. They get to see upstairs of the building they've never seen, but then they also get to learn something about the building. So we have the Tales from the Top tours that start at 6 once the event starts. We have carriage rides where you can just sit on the back with the lit up lights, take a tour around the Museum of History, the Belvedere Mansion. You can stop off there and have coffee and hot chocolate and have a dinner. You can come back downtown with kids events that Cedar Point Church does a great job with every year. There's window sitters. We have the territorial marshals, which for anybody in the Rogers County area have probably seen them doing their gun reenactments and shootouts right in the middle of the evening, about 7:30. Everybody clears the street and they do a big territorial marshal reenactment. The list just goes on and on. We really try to keep that Victorian presence with the events that we do. I think it just really gives that overall ambiance that kind of feels like you're stepping back in time.
So Jacob, it's a natural fit, the small town vibe, that Christmas in the air, but you had to have done your research. Where did they come up with the idea to do Dickens of all things?
That's funny you asked that, because that was one of the first questions I had asked somebody, and 24 years seems like a long time, and takes us back to the 90s, which most of us can still remember, but yes. You'd almost think it was 124 years, because it's kind of gotten lost in time just as we were seeking back some of the premise of it. But from the few people that I had talked to, was kind of like I had just said, that as you look to what are we good at or what are we known for, as you look at a historical Main Street that we've been blessed with, that they said that just kind of felt like an organic, let's bring back that Christmas feel, but with kind of a historical twist to it.
Yeah, you see a lot of communities around Oklahoma that kind of embrace the pioneer culture. I just, as a huge fan of, I haven't read a ton of books, and they say knowledge is power. That's why I'm doing a podcast for nothing. But Charles Dickens is probably one of my favorite authors. It's the one that sticks out for me the most when I read them in 7th grade. It's just there's something about that type of storytelling that just, in something that's as immersive as Dickens on Boulevard, I just can just feel how, I hate to say magical, because I'm going to catch heat for it later, but it's just it's magical. How can you not want to be a part of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people, they want to see something they can't typically see. I know with, my wife and I, we take our son up to Branson every year, and you go to Silver Dollar City, and there's the glass blowers and the welders and different things that you don't see every day. And I think that's what people are really drawn to. It's an experience that if you're not at Dickens, you might not see glass blowing, or you're not going to see some of the spinners and the welders and different things you just don't see on an everyday. So I think as you have an event that is so regionally popular, so many of the questions when I started, well, you're not going to get rid of Dickens, are you? What are you going to do? And they just, so half of the first questions were people just wanted to know what were we going to do with it? And people adore it. I really think, like you said, it just kind of tugs on like a nostalgia that, you know, you might have never read a book or seen that, but you just see it and it just has it's just a feel that it's different. I think a lot of towns, a lot of places, they all, every store, business town, they're trying to capture Christmas, but to be able to do it in a unique way that it just kind of takes people back or takes them somewhere they've never seen. I know my son, the first year we went, I believe he was 4, and we had one of the gentlemen that does those really large wheeled bikes. I don't know, it's probably a 6-foot, 7-foot tall wheel. And this guy was riding around on it, and my son was just dumbfounded. I mean, he'd never seen it. He'd probably thinking a million things. Why would you have one that big? What was the purpose? And the great thing about, as we do the event, the people that do that or the Tales from the Top, you're giving somebody something they've never seen or done, but then they kind of get to explain why. They get to explain why they did it like they did, what the purpose was. And, you know, I don't think anybody goes to these to be educated, but I really do think it's kind of a byproduct of it. You learn something that you didn't know, and it makes you want to come back. You want to say, okay, what else are they going to do? What are we going to learn this year?
So, Jacob, I have a question. It seems like this is a great event and something you can really immerse yourself in. But if we're wanting to go in all the way, we're going to need costumes, right? Do you guys have any place local where we can get costumes or any guidance?
We actually, for some of our performers, through the years, we have acquired a few that we use for our sarsaparilla area and our saloon. So we've used those in some places. My wife, I think the day I took this job, one of the first things she said after congratulating me was she had to get online to Amazon and find her fancy Victorian dress for Dickens. So I know my wife, she had wrestled over that decision for a couple weeks and had to make sure that she had the perfect one. But we do have some that we use for our merchants and some of our window sitters. I know Earl's in Tulsa is one place that we have had people come down. But yes, when you two come up here, you're gonna have to come era appropriate. Grow the mustache out, hopefully you guys can get a couple of those tall bikes that I was talking about, and we can parade you down the main street.
No, I need a tall set of legs to get on one of those tall bikes. So Jacob, you know, we like to ask, who's going to have the best goose in plum pudding that weekend?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I can tell you for people that are familiar with Claremore and Rogers County, they've probably been there many a time. Right on the edge of our downtown is the Belvedere Mansion, and it is, to me, the most beautiful building in our town that we have. It's owned by the Rogers County Historical Society, but in the bottom floor of it is the Pink House, which is a restaurant that has been around Claremore for quite some time. They were actually previously in a house that was in fact pink, and through time they had moved in to the Belvedere. And that night you can either park over there, which is what my wife and I would do in the past. We would start the evening there with a dinner and walk down to Main Street. Or our carriage ride, actually, you can stop off there. You could hop on the carriage in your fancy outfits and stop off there and go inside, have a Victorian era food and coffee, drinks, various things. So I know the Belvedere does an outstanding job, and both nights at Dickens. And if I was picking one place to eat, that's definitely where I would be going, as well as right next door on our Main Street Tavern is probably my favorite place to eat in town, and they'll be busy as always.
Well, I'll have I think I can probably cover the dress code for the Main Street Tavern. I'm just looking for a greasy cheeseburger, Jake.
Hey, I think the Tavern will welcome everybody. They'll have their always good food and burgers, and the cheesy bacon burger is my go-to favorite, so you can't go wrong with that one.
Golly. I got to get some beard oil. I feel like I'm going to need to up my game when I get there.
So, Jacob,
well, you know, we do have a place actually just in time for the Dickens that they plan to be doing. I hope they don't hear this and get mad at me. Their soft, official opening the end of this week. You know, one thing in the bigger scale of being the director, obviously we want to have those events that tie people in and bring them down here. Although it feels like we have an event every other day, you know, that's only the certain days of the year. We're always trying to bring in those businesses and those things that are going to make people come down here much more throughout the year. And just in time for Dickens, we have a new place opening up right on our main street called Tap on the Tracks. Kind of a play on the words that are lovely trains that everybody loves here in Claremore. And it's going to be a wine and tap restaurant with beer taps that are places only known all the way along Route 66. They have been gutting and completely down to the top for the last 3 months, and they're going to be opening just in time. So when you guys go get that cheeseburger down at Main Street Tavern, you can just walk about four doors down and visit our new Tap on the Tracks location. So I was really excited to see that. You know, as I said earlier, with a lot of younger professionals that are looking to do things, I think it's really a time that you see Claremore making a turn, because a lot of those businesses, frankly, you typically see in the Tulsas. A lot of people, you can get some of the mom and pop restaurants and some of those things that are loved and known in Claremore, but some of those certain experiences, they tend to be in the bigger towns. I think that's a big time where you can tell your town's turning, that those people, instead of going downtown Tulsa and Cherry Street, Oklahoma City, that they're actually coming up investing into Claremore. So that's going to be a really great addition, bringing variety to Main Street. And for me as the director, just perfect timing that it'll be opening up right when Dickens starts.
It sounds like you have a lot going on down there. What's the best place for people to find out more information, either about Dickens on the Boulevard or just about Claremore in general?
For our Main Street and specifically our events, I try to keep that as accurate and up to date as possible through our website, our social media pages. We're constantly sending things out, both of our Main Street events as well as our Main Street merchants and what events they're having. Visit claremore.org is a great resource that we work a lot with. They're great partners with us of not just Main Street, but everything in the Claremore town. So both of the social media and the website presence are great ways to stay up to date, to see different events that we have going on.
Well, Jacob, we appreciate you coming on the show, and what we really appreciate is what you're doing up there. I mean, it's a lot of revitalization going on around the state of Oklahoma. A lot of people miss it because, you know, we're in the metro. We don't get to hear about what's going on in the outlying areas of the metro. So, big ups to you guys for sure.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me on. You know, we're pretty fond of it. Like I said, I've been here 2.5 years. Claremore feels like my town and my home. I've been very fortunate that when this position came available, and, you know, it's only been, I guess, coming on 4 months now. Some days it feels like it's been 4 years. Sometimes it feels about a week, but, you know, I love it because you really get to see how much people do love this town. And some of those things kind of tend to be cliche until you actually live in this town. But when you meet somebody that's a 4th generation business owner or just 4th generation have lived here, and they tell you the stories and the history of it, you kind of feel a responsibility in a very, very small part as the Main Street director to make sure that you preserve that history, which my wife and I are just huge history buffs, but you also want to progress it and see what things that we can have for the next generation and continue to grow in it. So finding that balance has been my favorite part of the job, that you're finding that middle ground to make sure that people see, hey, we are a great historic town. We have a lot of things, a lot of people that have been here for many years and back to Will Rogers that we're proud of. But let me show you what else we're doing. Let me show you where we're going. Let me show you our plans. And that balance has been the greatest part of this position, why I love it so much.
Well, I said it before, and I'll say it again. We are super impressed with what you've got going on in Claremore. And, Jacob, we really appreciate you being on the show today.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Brett. So we're back. All right, Brett. We're back.
We're back. All right.
Brett.
Yeah. No, Jacob.
The least ummiest person I've ever talked to in all of my years of podcasting.
And he's another Energizer bunny, man.
Dude, he's super excited.
I had a lot of fun editing his show because I didn't have to do it. Just, you know, sometimes it takes care of itself.
No, I agree with that 100%. Love the guy.
Knowledgeable, young,
excited. Absolutely love what they've got going on. Dude, Claremore, my God.
I feel like we've been the Claremore, we're the Claremore Chronicle here lately.
Between Claremore and Guthrie, I feel like we we need to have a summer home and a winter home or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, for my money, my winter home, sorry, Guthrie, would be, at least right now, I'd be doing some Dickens on the Boulevard.
I don't know though. We had discussions around all the things that are going on in Guthrie in the month of December. This might be a competition kind of thing.
They may be fighting for custody. We may have to,
2 towns enter, 1 town leaves.
You and I might have to choose. All right, what's it going to be? Are you going to Claremore? Am I staying with Mom? Or are you going with Dad? What's the situation? And who's your daddy? Is it Claremore? I kind of feel like it's a battle for supremacy right now. You know, natural selection.
I agree. Jacob, though, he's got great vision for the town. I love it, and kind of really seems like an old soul. I like that.
I do like that about him. And, you know, he really, what I like is that he's kind of reaching out to even, you know, as he put it, the old guards of Claremore, and they're starting to kind of come into the fold and it never hurts to do, you know, we talk about all the time, towns around Oklahoma that we think could use something similar to this. Every time we talk to a town that's putting their stuff together, we're thinking, why aren't these people doing it? Why aren't these people doing it? I just love that the community is really embracing these improvements, and it brings more people in. It brings the community in. It makes you a destination at that point. I think it's all about the tourism, actually.
I agree 100%, but I really love the pride. The pride in their community that is, it's amazingly obvious that they're all of the businesses and the citizens in these towns are really taking a ton of pride in what they're doing, and they should.
Right. I say this a lot outside of the show, but I always tell people it's about pride and ownership. If you're proud about it, it shows, and if it shows, people, if you build it, you know, it's the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come, and they're doing it.
I agree. And there's really something for everybody in the dude, in Claremore, there's literally something for everybody. You go to Claremore and you don't find a fun activity or a cool place to go. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, the place has a soul all its own. I mean, it's chock. Oklahoma is just chock-a-block full of history anyway.
Speaking of history, I had no idea.
Okay,
Claremore. In like 1802, there was a band of Osage Indians that settled in the area, and their chief was called Black Dog.
Now, that's a dude you don't want to mess with.
I love that. Like, I had no idea. I didn't know there was an Indian chief named Black Dog, but come on.
Yeah.
That is the coolest name ever. And another thing I didn't realize.
What's that?
Another historical / kind of historical. The play Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Is based in Claremore.
Okay. I'll take you. Let's go nerdy.
Okay.
There's an episode of Quantum Leap that's loosely based in and around Claremore.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool. I like that.
That is really cool. And they're also and they're going to be filming a movie. They're filming movies all over the place around here. But they're
Quantum
doing
Leap is a blast from the past, dude.
Oh,
seriously.
Yeah. I love that movie.
But more importantly though, this episode, Dickens. Dude, you love Dickens. I love Dickens.
Right.
I think Scrooge is probably one of my favorite all-time. I never thought of him as a villain. I mean, he starts that way, but it's just a great story.
He's the original Grinch. Let's be real.
Yes.
Yeah. Charles Dickens, again, I said it in the episode, I've said it before. I've read probably more Charles Dickens in school. It's the one thing that stuck with me. Great storytelling. And I love how they take your town, you know, they're going the opposite of what you would typically see, where it's not a pioneer Christmas or a land run Christmas. And I've got no issue with that at all. But they completely flipped the script.
And nobody knows why. I think that is awesome.
Why.
I think that is so awesome that there's, like, we've been doing it for 30 years. We don't know why.
Right.
Like, that is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And they dress up, the interactive experience, tons of fun. I can't say enough.
I feel like we failed in the dress up thing. Like, I don't know how it didn't happen, but...
What do you mean?
Well, we didn't ask if it was okay to come dressed as Jedi.
That's true. That's the only, I think this has been the only episode that has included a dress up option that we haven't asked if we can be Jedi Knights or Stormtroopers.
Right.
Wouldn't that be funny? You just see a stormtrooper walking around with like a tilted top hat.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that costume cost to rent.
Oh man, I just want to own one. But here's the problem with that. I just don't look like I definitely look like a stormtrooper that's going to miss when he shoots. Like I have that. I'm just kind of short. I'm awkward, you know. It's going to be an ill-fitting. I'll have like part of a t-shirt hanging out. It's just going to be bad. Like a slovenly dressed stormtrooper. It's just not as cool.
Oh my God. That's funny.
A Christmas Ewok, maybe? I mean, I think they had a Christmas Ewok episode, if I remember.
I vaguely recall that.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and this is a stretch, but I feel like you might actually be too tall.
I think you're right.
To be an Ewok. Not by much. Maybe 3 or 4 inches.
Maybe I could be the king of Endor. Like I'm tall enough to be the king, but not short enough to be the villager. You know? But anyway, tons of you know, if we do another show about Claremore, I feel like we're going to.
Oh, we definitely are. There's no doubt about it. I actually have a couple of lines in the water for Claremore shows.
Oh man,
sorry
guys. I mean, you know, we're talking about trying to get the needle to move a little bit towards the east, or away from the east and more towards the west. If you're out there, let us know. I mean,
yeah, and I really feel like we need some input from the listeners.
Absolutely, as
to what you want in a show. And what your feelings are about places like Claremore. I'm in love.
I really, really am. I was born there. I've said it 3 times. I'm in love with the place. I went as a child, and I promise you it's not the same place it was 30 years ago.
Absolutely not.
And I think there's a lot of towns that you go, I haven't been there in 30 years, that I promise you there are a lot of them that have maybe not completely changed, but they've definitely added a coat of paint for sure. Right. Get out. Go see. Drive.
I agree.
It's Route 66, people. It's not hard to find.
It's on all the maps.
It's on all the maps.
Of course, nobody has a map.
Nobody has a map unless it's an app.
Well, this has been the Only an OK show. I am Harley.
And I am the king of the Ewoks. Oh my God! Why did I put Broadway?
I'm literally pointing at the screen.
I put Boulevard. I really did put Boulevard. I was trying to ad lib and I messed up. God bless America. Dang it, Jacob. All right, man. I'll take it from the. Gee whiz, we're off to a roaring start. All right, back. Oh, whoops! Dang it, man! I hit the freaking keyboard.
Jacob, it sounds like you.
Well, for once, we're not actually talking about Will Rogers. We're talking about Charles Dickens. No, I'm stupid. I messed up.
This doesn't even make the outtakes, by the way.
It doesn't. No. Oh, my God. A world famous cider. Oh, God.
If we play this in the show, we're going to Ebenezer Scrooge ourselves. I kind of like to leave it at the king of the Ewoks, but whatever.
Well, I'll leave it. I always wait for the nonverbal cues, and I can't ever. You're hard to read. I'd hate to play poker with you. Like, I just would hate it.
No, it wouldn't last very long.
It wouldn't last long at all.
Oh, I'm all in.